10 most famous paintings by Raphael. Top 1. The painting The Crucifixion of Christ, originally influenced by Perugino. It was initially an altarpiece in the San Domenico church of Raphael's hometown of Urbino. The painting depicts Jesus on the cross, seeking peace even in his moment of death. 2 angels collect his blood in a chalice. On the left, Mary Magdalene kneels beside Jesus, with John the Evangelist standing behind her. To the right, Mary stands, and St. Jerome, to whom the altarpiece is dedicated, kneels. At the foot of the cross is an inscription in silver. Raphael of Urbino painted this. The painting is now in the National Collection of Ludwig Mond. The sun and moon above are present, despite the prohibition by the Council of Constantinople to use such symbolic signs to refer to other religions. The painting has been analysed in the National Gallery in London, and typical Renaissance pigments have been identified. He used various pigments like ultramarine, lead tin yellow, sky blue, vermilion, and earth colours. Top 2. The painting Madonna of the Meadow. Raphael painted this oil painting in 1505 while in Florence, Italy. Although the painting is currently housed in the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, Austria, the Madonna of the Meadow, also known as Madonna of the Field, after a long residence in the Vienna Belvedere Royal Collection, portrays the Virgin Mary looking down at her son, Jesus, and his cousin, St. John the Baptist, who kneels and offers a cross to Jesus. The painting is set in a serene meadow, adding to its overall charm. Mary is dressed in a blue robe with a gold border over a red gown, extending her right leg in a diagonal line. The blue symbolizes the church and Christ's death, with Jesus' hand touching Mary's hand, signifying the unity of the Mother Church with the sacrifice of Christ. Her gaze is fixed on Christ, her head turned slightly to the left and tilted, and her two hands tightly holding him as he leans forward unsteadily to touch the miniature cross, held by John. The cross alludes to passion, death, and the resurrection of Christ. The painting was made for Taddeo Taddei and remained in the Taddei family until the 1660s, when it was sold to Ferdinand Charles, Prince of Austria. Top 3. The fresco The Parnassus. The Parnassus is a fresco by Raphael, located in the Vatican Palace in Rome, painted on commission by Pope Julius II. It is likely the second wall of the Stanza della Segnatura, painted between 1509 and 1511, following La Disputa and preceding the School of Athens, which occupy the other walls of the room. The entire room showcases the 4 realms of human knowledge: philosophy, religion, poetry, and law, with the Parnassus representing poetry. The fresco depicts the mythical Mount Parnassus, where Apollo reigns. He is seen at the center playing a musical instrument, a contemporary lira da braccio, than a classical lyre, surrounded by 9 muses, minus 1 ancient poets, and 9 contemporary poets, Apollo, along with Calliope, the muse of epic poetry, inspires the poets. Raphael uses the face of Laocoon from the ancient sculpture Laocoon and his sons, excavated in 1506 and also in the Vatican, for his Homer in the dark blue robe to the left of the center, portraying blindness rather than agony. 2 of the female figures in the fresco are believed to evoke the creation of Odamongelo by Adam, Euterpe and Sappho, named on a scroll she holds. Sappho is the only female poet depicted, perhaps intended to differentiate her from a muse. She is a late addition, but present in Marcantonio Raimondi's print, reproducing the drawing for the fresco. The window below the Parnassus fresco frames the view of Mons Vaticanus, considered sacred to the ancient sun god of the Vatican, referencing Apollo in a humanistic way, as mentioned by Biondo, Vigio, and Albertini, linking the ancient god of the sun to the Vatican. Top 4. painting the coronation of the Virgin Mary. The Audi altarpiece is a decorative piece. Behind the altar of the coronation of the Virgin, painted between 1502 to 1504 by Renaissance masters Raphael. For the Audi family chapel in the San Francesco Church in Prato, Perugia, Italy, and now housed in the Vatican Pinacoteca. The altar was initially commissioned for the Audi family chapel at San Francesco, Prato in Perugia, but it was taken to Paris in 1797 and returned to Italy in 1815. Not to Perugia, but to the Vatican Pinacoteca. The actions in the painting take place interrelated scenes, one in heaven and another on the earth. The upper coronation scene depicts the Virgin Mary being crowned by Jesus, while angels play music. Below, it describes the apostles gathered around the empty tomb of the Virgin Mary, whose body has been assumed into heaven without corruption. St. Thomas holds in his hand the girdle of Mary. As a testimony to his doubts, the saints gaze up at the heavenly scene. Top 5. Painting the School of Athens. The School of Athens is one of Raphael's 4 frescoes, created between 1509 and 1511. The School of Athens reflects Raphael's understanding of philosophy as an embodiment of God, with Plato and Aristotle placed at the center of the composition, much like Jesus is at the center in Paolo Veronese's The Wedding at Cana. In total, there are 21 famous ancient Greek philosophers in the painting, including Pythagoras and Heraclitus, but Plato and Aristotle are at the center. In modern art analysis, this represents Raphael's interpretation of philosophical thought. Philosophy is portrayed as a contrast, with Plato and Aristotle at the center, representing a master-disciple relationship but differing in their viewpoints. Plato adheres to the theory of forms, where existence is non-material and discernible through supernatural intellect, whereas non-existence is material. Aristotle, on the other hand, considers physical existence as real and actuality is truth. These are the 2 philosophical axes that many philosophers followed. Raphael doesn't take sides, but rather seems to show that the philosophers' gathering is not a competition, but a shared pursuit of knowledge and life's truth. Top 6. Painting Disputation of the Holy Sacrament. The Disputation of the Holy Sacrament aims to represent what could be called the theological truth, related to the philosophical truth expressed in front of it by the School of Athens. In Christian tradition, this theological truth is embodied in the Holy Sacrament, an act of thanksgiving that Jesus Christ passed on to his disciples in his memory, just before his Passion. From then on, all the services of the Church revolve around this action, both as a means of redemption and as a relationship with a God, including the Holy Trinity, angels, and saints of all ages. This is the complex theological reality that Raphael commits to represent in this fresco, as it was intended for the office and library of Pope Julius II, serving as a support for contemplating the mystery of the Church on earth and in heaven. The fresco is enclosed within an arch and proposes, as with most of Raphael's works, a rigorous composition that cleverly exploits the circular form within which it is set, as the circular motif is present throughout the work. From bottom to top, it crystallizes first in the Holy Sacrament, present on the altar and forming the center of the circular motif, through which the crescent of the arch passes, affirming its status as the subject of the work. Then it is found in a halo around the dove, the traditional symbol of the Holy Spirit in the great glory of Christ, in the form of a globe held by God the Father. Finally, the apostles and great figures of the Old Testament are placed in an arch around the Holy Trinity, while the sky includes a wide meteoric vault radiating outwards from the circle around Christ. The integrity of the circle is explained by the fact that the excellence of ontology and the perfection of the circle are not only an ancient tradition, but also, with the Renaissance, a renewed emphasis on the circle as a means to suggest this. Also, we can see in this care the circular arrangement of elements in the painting, such as a choir in a church, the altar, and the Holy Sacrament highlighted in an elegant and graceful light. Directly beside the altar are the doctors of the Church, from the early days of Christianity, with Pope Innocent III 1601216, the most powerful pope of the Middle Ages who established the political independence of Rome, and Sixtus IV 1414–1484, born Francesco della Rovere, who significantly renovated Rome. Alongside figures such as the religious Dominican Savonarola, leader of a political revolution in 1494 in Florence back to the Republic, and moral rechristianization, or painter Fra Angelico, contemporary of Savonarola, famous for his excellent frescoes and paintings, along with Dante, whose Divine Comedy had a significant influence on medieval theology, near the altar, Bramante, the famous architect of St. Peter's Basilica, and Francesco Maria della Rovere, presented with similar features to Leonardo da Vinci, and only the Holy Sacrament in an elegant and graceful light. 7. Triumph of Galatea. The Triumph of Galatea is a painting completed around 1514 by Raphael for the Villa Farnesina in Rome. The Farnesina was built for the Senese banker Agostino Chigi, one of the wealthiest men of his time. The Farnese family later acquired it, renaming it the Villa, smaller in scale than the Grande Palazzi across the Tiber River. This mural depicts a mythological scene, part of a series of open-air scenes adorning the villa inspired by Angelo Poliziano's stands, Perlagiostra, in Greek mythology. The beautiful Nereid Galatea falls in love with the shepherdesses. Her jealous suitor, the giant Cyclops Polyphemus, kills Assis with a massive spear after their union. Raphael does not portray the central event of the story. He chose the moment of the nymph's divine rapture stands, I. 118–119. Galatea is surrounded by other sea creatures inspired by Michelangelo, while the vibrant colors and bright decorations are thought to be influenced by ancient Roman frescoes. On the left, a Triton part man, part fish captures a sea monster. Behind them, another Triton uses a conch shell as a trumpet. Galatea rides a chariot drawn by two dolphins. While some saw a resemblance to Agostino Chigi's lover, Imperia, in the model for Galatea, and Raphael's near contemporary Giorgio Vasari claimed that Raphael intended no specific likeness, but represented ideal beauty. When asked where he found such beauty, Raphael reportedly said he used a certain idea he had formed in his mind. Top 8. Expulsion of Heliodorus from the Temple. The expulsion of Heliodorus from the Temple is a fresco painted by Raphael from 1511 to 1513 as part of his commission to decorate the rooms, now known as the Stanze di Raffaello in the Vatican Palace. It is located in the room after it, the Stanza di Eliodoro. The expulsion of Heliodorus illustrates a biblical story. From 2 Maccabees, Heliodorus, under orders from Seleucus for Philopator, the king of Syria, attempts to seize the treasure reserved in the temple in Jerusalem. In response to prayers from the high priest Onias, God sends a horseman supported by 2 young men to drive Heliodorus away. On the left, Raphael's patron Julius II witnesses the scene from his litter of money. The funds had been set aside for widows and orphans, and a priest had seen and prayed, and God had sent a horseman to expel him from the temple. The composition is divided into 2 halves, with the praying priest and the priest resembling Julius II in the center. On the right is the battling horseman Heliodorus. The menorah in the center by the priest indicates the setting is BC, and it is authentic. On the left, the widow and orphans are grouped together, and Julius II is being carried on a litter, witnessing the event. The message of the fresco is "Do not steal from the church." The architecture alludes to the schools of Athens, though the vaults in the fresco are much richer and gilded and adorned more intricately. Top 9. Madonna of Foligno. The Madonna of Foligno is a painting first executed on wood panel, later transferred to canvas. The painting depicts a sacred conversation, where the holy figures appear engaged in discussion and draw the viewers into their dialogue, instead of sitting under a tree in the Umbrian or Florentine style. The Virgin Mary sits on a cloud, embracing the baby Jesus. Surrounded by angels, they gaze down at Sigismund de Conti, kneeling in a red-lined cloak and fur. Conti is presented by St. Jerome on the right with his lion, signifying the Virgin's protection. On the left are St. Francis of Assisi and St. John the Baptist. Standing and wearing animal skins, St. John points to Jesus, engaging us directly, while St. Francis points towards Jesus and looks at the Christ figure. An angel between the men connects the earthly saints with the seraphim hosts of heaven. In the background are the towers of Foligno, created during Raphael's Roman period. It showcases his mature style in terms of composition, color, and form. Conti commissioned the painting to commemorate his survival from a cannonball that exploded near him during the siege of Foligno, his hometown. He attributed his safety to the intervention of heaven. According to historian Massimo Polidoro, this painting has been used by UFO websites as evidence for a flying saucer crash. What Polidoro suggests you are really seeing is Sigismondo Conti's house and a fireball. Artists at the time used symbolic meaning other than randomness. The angel is holding a sign with nothing written on it. Polidoro theorizes this is because Sigismondo died before he could tell Raphael what, thanks to the Virgin, he wanted written on the banner. Polidoro calls the UFO explanation a reinterpretation through the eyes of a 21st century European, a product of different cultural backgrounds. Top 10. Vision of a Night. Vision of a Night, also known as the Dream of Scipio or Allegory, is a small egg tempera, a painting on wood by Raphael, completed between 1504 to 1505. It is housed in the National Gallery in London. It might have originally been paired with the panel of the Three Graces, also 17 cm square, now in the Château de Chantilly. There are various theories about what the panel intends to represent. Some art historians believe the Night Asleep represents the Roman general Scipio Africanus, to 36 to 184 BC, who dreamed he had to choose between virtue, the steep and rocky path, and pleasure, the easy path. However, the two female figures are not presented as candidates. They might symbolize the ideal attributes of a knight. The book, sword, and flower they hold represent the scholar, warrior, and lover ideals a knight should embody. The likely source for the allegory is from a passage in Punica, an epic poem retelling the Second Punic War by the Latin poet Silius Italicus. The panel was brought to England by William Young Hartley in 1800. Raphael employed a rich color palette to depict this vibrant scene, including pigments such as tin yellow, copper resonate, and earth brown. These paintings demonstrate the masterful talent of the renowned artist, reshaping the course of art history worldwide. They laid the foundation for artistic ideas that subsequent painters would build upon, making them perennial favorites among art enthusiasts.